This is the Honda HR-V Sport, because you guys wanted to see this sporty trim here on Autogefühl, your #1 resource for in-depth car reviews and your #1 community to discuss cars. Today with Thomas here. And Honda Diesel, by the way, it's called in other markets, but no matter which name you're buying this car, we'll take a look at exterior, interior and the driving experience. Today also with a different engine, with a stronger turbo engine than last time we reviewed this vehicle. So now, please join us in Full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go! In the front, the HR-V Sport features those sportier lower bumpers. You can see here they are in high gloss black and a little bit stronger, so this gives a bigger stance on the road, and I think it suits the vehicle very well. Why not? Headlamps also come then with LED in this Sport trim, and then there's the LED daytime running light right here. From distance, the HR-V quite looks the same as the CR-V, the bigger brother. But then of course it will be a difference than in the side profile. The length is at 4.33 meters, 14'2" or 170 inches. That's of course pretty small, but we'll see how it plays out in the interior. The Sport trim, you can see here, high gloss black wheel arches in this case, and also black frames here around the windows, so a little bit sportier overall. High gloss black also for the side mirrors, and platinum grey metallic is an exclusive color for the HR-V Sport trim. In those cases, those are winter tires here, 17-inch, but usually in the summer tires then it comes with 18-inch, and you can also get them in black in the Sport trim here, and that of course looks more impressive than it does look at the moment, but I mean, it's winter at the moment, so that's how it is. The rear door handles are integrated right here. That's a interesting feature that definitely keeps up this line here. You can see here the dropping line is raising towards the rear. And this Sport trim also comes with sport dampers. Yeah, we'll see how that one plays out later. However, we have the smaller wheels and also the winter tires, which are a little bit higher, so that evens it out a little bit today if you compare it with those 18-inch summer tires. And finally to the rear, where we can also see this LED signature, and in the lower part here of the Sport trim also high gloss black, so it's sportier than with the spoiler right there. And there's a dual exhaust for this 1.5 liter turbo petrol engine. Let's take a look at that. As for engines, in Europe you have 1.5 liter naturally aspirated engine with 130 horsepower, and the 1.5 liter turbo petrol engine as we have here with 180 horsepower, both with manual or CVT, this case today manual. 7.8 seconds is the acceleration figure then. That's actually a little more than 2 seconds faster than the naturally aspirated one. And our friends in the US, they also have a 1.8 liter naturally aspirated engine, then with 140 horsepower, and always with CVT. And here we only get the front wheel drive, but with the 1.8 you can also get it as all-wheel drive. Now to the interior, where you can see here fabric at the inside of the doors. That's actually pretty nice and cozy. Then the red leatherette in this HR-V Sport trim, and that's also the rest of the scheme. You can see the sporty red colors right there. Also red contrast stitches at the inside of the steering wheel. Here on the left side for the volume, on the right side you can use the cruise control, and right next to the steering wheel in the lower part you can control the digital instruments, like the part of the digital instruments, because you can see here the main thing is still all analog, especially the central middle gauge. Then also in this Sport trim you have those aluminum pedals and special seats with fabric on the inside, beautifully done also with the black fabric, and then red leatherette on the outside. and they're also stronger in the bolstering overall. But you already see there's a lot of space in this rather small vehicle. It's also so easy to get inside, and that's one of the main things about this car. It's short, it's tiny on the one hand, but it's huge on the inside, so you wouldn't suspect that it's actually a short vehicle. When you sit here, you have enough room. Also, as a tall person, when I put the seat all the way down with 1.86 m or 6'1", still have plenty of headroom. You can also get a panoramic roof, then you have less headroom, especially in the rear. Interesting is that the Sport trim in the US is not the highest one, but already the second one, whereas in Europe, especially in Germany, the Sport is actually the highest trim. So those are different market strategies, and they also differ in what they actually have included then in the trim. Price-wise, 20K something entry price, dollars or euros, and then all high spec, biggest engine, high spec, you can get this car to something 30,000, but still decent in price, very decent. Then the steering wheel here with the manual control, in and out, up and down. And very light to control that one, so you can really find a good seating position here even if you're tall, and those seats are actually very comfortable. Now to the interior, the top part here is halfback, however this one then is a little bit softer, and also in the lower part some soft touch. This 7-inch screen you do not get as base, it's an option or include then in the higher trims. Again, you look at the steering wheel, which has this very sporty trim. Zoom more again to instruments and the screen itself, but there's not so much to tell you about that. Here the climate unit is not with physical buttons, but you can press them like this. Not too practical actually, but still in a way straightforward for non-physical buttons, but I do prefer more physical buttons for that, but the integration of course looks nice. Then this shifting lever here, manual gearbox for today, looks quite fancy and sporty. In the lower area here we have the connection base for your smartphone. You can charge it there. However, no Apple CarPlay added Autogefühl EU cars, but the US cars do have that. Some licensing issues probably. They don't want to pay the money for the EU market probably. Yes, we had the same with Toyota. Toyota is fixing that now. I hope Honda does as well. Then in the middle part you have a lot of different possibilities how you sort those cup holders, like deeper or not that deep, or split in different ways, so that's pretty interesting. And then there's this armrest where we can put it up, and then you have some more space underneath. And one more close-up at the instruments, all classic analog in the middle and also in the left for the RPMs. And on the right part you then have a digital screen where you can, for example, see the very decent fuel economy. Well, and then this screen, the software is actually a little bit weird. You just connect the phone via Bluetooth. In Europe, again, in the US you would just use the CarPlay and that's it. You do have a car internal GPS here as well. That is a little bit, yeah, I'm not sure if we should even talk about this. I think you do get the picture without explaining too much about that. And worth mentioning is the rear view camera. The helping lines here also adapt a little bit. Resolution could be a little bit better, but it's still okay and it's pretty helpful. You know, all US vehicles do have that mandatory across all cars. That's a law now, but in the EU you only get it with the higher trims and so on. Left next to the steering wheel you also have this Econ button. This reduces the throttle input a little bit, but you can also just fine-tune that with your throttle yourself. And if you want to see the car key, by the way, that's how it looks like. And you indeed still have to enter the key like this yourself, so it's not a keyless option they have here. And now to the rear, which is very interesting, I can tell you. First of all, fabric at the inside of the doors, also at the rear, even a little bit dampened. Well, some more really expensive cars can, just look at that. And this really feels good. And it also adds even to sound dampening on the interior. Well done, Honda, in this case. So then, as for the legroom, again, it's a short car, but so much legroom, and you could say, yeah, that's at the cost of having no trunk at all. No way. There's hardly any other vehicle that is so well done as for the exterior to interior space relation. Double thumbs up. This is awesome. Headroom also totally fine. So this is a car where you have abundance of space with 4 tall adults, although it's short. I can just stress it over and over again. When you have the panoramic roof, however, it will come quite close with tall adults in the rear. Interesting also, when you flip the seats, then just look at the back part and the lower part at the same time. Here the lower part goes down a little bit. Then we have, when we flip it, look from the trunk, an even surface and no step in the trunk. Great solution here as well. And another solution, this one still has those magic seats. So you can put that one up, secure it here, then it stays, that's so live, like this, here. Then it stays upright. And then you can, for example, transport like your precious plant, which is high or something. You can even put a bicycle in here when you demount the front tire, like in the transverse way, depending on the bicycle. So you're really very flexible with the vehicle. You can do the same with the back seat here, no problem. And of course, Isofix at the outside parts. Then you have this small armrest, all good quality leatherette. And in the central part here, a power outlet. You can also use an adapter line for 2 more USB ports, for example, those small ones you can buy. So awesome what they've done here for the flexibility. As for the trunk, there's a liter capacity of 430 to 1470 liters. And what does it mean in measurements? Here in the length, we have about 80 centimeters to the back seats. That's already quite impressive for this size of a vehicle. And then to the front seat, that's 1.65 meters. So it's indeed as well quite good. And in the width, the usual for most cars, 1 meter right there. And the height here to the top cover is 53 centimeters, and that's actually very impressive. And that even means you can put this cabin trolley here in an upright way. That is very rare. And you can see here as well, you know, how well that everything fits, and also a smooth transition then when the seats are being flipped. I already did this 1/3, 2/3 split. Pretty cool. And some more space, you know, for tools and so on underneath. So this is an excellent result. What's up, guys? You made it to Thomas's Driving Lounge today with the Honda HR-V, or Diesel as it's called in other markets, in the sport trim. Talked about differences earlier about the exterior, interior and so on, but now about driving. Well, this one does have the sport dampers. So it's a little bit stiffer, it's a little bit sportier. You do feel that, so you lose some comfort when you're driving over some potholes, and you gain some sportiness then of course in the corners. So it's a trade-off. However, it also depends on the wheel size. So I also told you earlier that usually we would come with bigger wheels on the exterior with this sport look, and we would have the normal summer tires mounted. Here at the moment still the winter tires, and that again makes the ride soft again. So sport dampers, but those smaller wheels, more tire to work with, that doesn't feel that stiff then actually. So if you have the 18-inch wheels and the sport dampers here, that's of course something different. So the look is definitely better, but you might also lose some comfort. That's the thing. We do drive the 6-speed manual gearbox here today, and this is also, as I told you earlier, the 1.5 liter turbo petrol engine with around 180 horsepower, and this one definitely gives me a better boost than this naturally aspirated 1.5. Remember that you guys in the US, you get the 1.8 liter naturally aspirated engine, so this comes closer than in the performance to this one. However, you know, with the naturally aspirated engines, they always have a more linear horsepower output, so you have a more, let's say, natural acceleration. And here with the turbos, now like the road is pretty rough, there's sport dampers, you still feel them, but again, wheels even it out a little bit. So back to the engines, this one here being a turbo, the acceleration, you know, comes after a second, then really sets in when the turbo gets it really going. However, it's still more fun to drive, yes, because the 1.5 without the turbo is, you know, really not that fast. If you need a little bit more punch, especially on the motorway, and we'll soon go to that one, soon going to the motorway and show the acceleration, then the turbo will definitely help. And well, who is driving this car? Actually, really wide variety of people. So some driving it as a primary vehicle, some as a secondary vehicle. And the cool thing is here, you have a really small car where you can get a parking spot and so on, but you already have so much space on the interior, as I told you in the interior part. And you get along in the city here very well because, you know, you can find a parking spot when it's getting narrow, left and right, like, oh, whatever. As I just ended the car wash before doing this review, usually like in the car wash, you know, especially like those at the fuel station, I think like, this the autonomous emergency brake warning that was already giving the warning before it was applying, like, you know, the real pressure. So you look left and right, and with the wheels, and does it really fit with those 20-inch wheels of that big sedan? And but here it's like super easy, and that makes driving this car in the city so comfortable. It's actually pretty cool. But then again, you already have quite some nice comfort. You know, I have this upright seating position here, and I could very well imagine also going on a longer journey with this car without having, you know, to upgrade to a higher segment. And that's of course this SUV or crossover building style which really contributes to that, because otherwise in those, like, say, normal low seating car concepts, there's hardly any small normal car vehicle, like, you know, like Volkswagen Polo or something, which really gives me a long-term comfort. Like, even not the best ones of those, they usually have to go up a segment. And even I would say, yeah, towards the mid-size sedan or estate segment, then I really know I usually have a comfortable car also for longer drives. With those SUVs or crossover, I can even go for a smaller one and still already have a comfortable drive. And that's just the more, you know, the more upright seating position that comes more natural to our bodies. That's why also no one would be sitting in the car seat at the dining table, but rather in an SUV seat. And that also leads to those globally surging SUV sales, but especially in the small and compact segment. So when people, you know, say, like, you know, SUVs are to blame for everything, well, it's not about those huge SUVs, you know. Most SUVs that are bought nowadays are those small and compact ones, especially in Europe. So really interesting. And usually they use the same technology as the small or compact cars, that the fuel economy is not necessarily any different, you know, as with those platform brothers, which are not the SUVs. So I have to bear that in mind. So far, pretty interesting drive. Again, those sport dampers, not to my liking, because I don't think it fits the vehicle, you know. You could have left it just with the visual stuff for the sport mode. I don't think this car here needs sport dampening. So yeah, actually I'm glad that I have the winter tires, although they don't look that good in that size. So the sports wheels on this car really look, you know, way cooler, definitely. But then again, I would have preferred a combination of those sports tires than, or sport wheels with the size, and then no sport dampening. Yeah, whatever. We do have the 6-speed manual gearbox here. That's cool for a change, with this, you know, very small shifting lever. Start-stop function was on now. Actually, it always should be stop-start, you know, because you don't start with start when you're like more stop-start than a start-stop. Very philosophical today, yes. Now we're getting on the motorway and see about the acceleration. I get back to the second gear, and I can also, quite nice sound, right? Accelerate out here, up the hill, and now I'm in third gear and pushed from 60 kilometers to 100. Well, that's it. And there you see, there's a big difference when I have the turbo in comparison to the naturally aspirated engine. In the 0 to 100 kilometers now, or 62 miles figure, is about 7.8 seconds. For this one here with the manual gearbox, the CVT is slower, and this is, you know, more than 2 seconds difference than to the naturally aspirated 1.5 engine. So this really gives a better punch, and then you also have some power reserves. Not necessarily in the 6th gear, but if you, for example, go to 5th gear even, then there's still something happening, you know, or then of course go back to the 4th gear. In the 6th gear, it's more like rolling, lower fuel economy and so on. And noise insulation, I mean, it's not best in segment here, but it's actually quite decent. So you see I don't have to raise my voice that much, and the car keeps also relatively stable. The steering gives me a good feeling also. It's quite light, yes, but it's not completely like dead or something. I do also have a cruise control right here in this vehicle, so that's available, showing me then the right side of the screen. That's a normal cruise control right here, non-adaptive. I can set it here, and it's nice to have, of course, for longer drives. So feeling quite good and stable here on the road. The overview to right and left and back is really fantastic, so I can see everything very, very well. That's very cool with this vehicle, especially to the rear. You have such a good overview and know what's happening around you. Very nicely done. And we soon also get off the motorway and show you some more dynamic driving then in a roundabout. We're looking forward to do that. Lane change here, higher speeds. So this is where the sport dampening with even road is of course good, that the car keeps a little bit more upright. So that's good for faster driving than in this case. So it always comes with pros and cons. And shifting is actually quite fun because the whole transmission here, everything is quite crisp when you shift, when you put in the gears. So that's adding to this sporty fun of the vehicle. And since the car is quite light, it's also indeed fun to drive it. And see here, don't have to turn the steering wheel that much, but it's not that progressive. Now changing, yeah, it's leaning a little bit towards the corners, but still quite okay. So it gives me a good natural driving feeling. So those Hondas really do that very well, and you can compare them a little bit to the Mazdas. They also concentrate on a rather natural driving feeling, so to say. Once more here on the motorway. A little bit dirty road, a little bit slip, accelerate out. Yeah, it's a really good natural feeling this car is conveying, and I like that. So although we have the turbo here, it doesn't feel like the turbos from the German builds, which are maybe sometimes a little bit more aggressive. So they managed that, although this is the turbo version, still they have like a, rather natural driving feeling with that. And well, we had some driving downhill, but I also had this acceleration here, and so far the fuel economy figure is doing quite good actually, so even better than I was expecting. But we also keep you updated towards the final conclusion when I finished my test ride for today, what we had then as a final fuel. Whoa, what's that? I mean, that's totally unnecessary hard acceleration and exceeding the speed limit here, where I was trying to change the lanes. Yeah. There's always war on the road, and some people never get it. So, I mean, if you really want to drive faster, then rent a car and go to the racetrack, right? Or take like something like a track day or something, but don't use public roads for that. I mean, I like to drive fast as well, but I mean, the speed limits are here for a reason. And I mean, if you miss another traffic light because of that, but maybe rent someone over because you were speeding, what's it worth? I think I really got my philosophical day, right? So when I'm standing still here and I call it stop start now, function is activated, I think it's really actually quite silent in this vehicle, also considering, let's say, earlier Honda builds and so on. And here accelerating with the turbo together with the manual gearbox is actually quite fun. So this sport trim level, indeed, although I'm not really like the biggest fan of the dampers, everything else actually makes sense, brings a little bit more joy to the car, a little more sportiness, and then I would say definitely why not. And the thing is really, it's such a practical car, and it's so good in price performance and size on the exterior versus size on the interior, that indeed it makes sense to give it a little bit more spice, that when you're driving it, it's not only like, I'm just driving it for practical reasons, but also for a little bit more fun. So, what's your take? And now to our conclusion for today with the Honda HR-V Sport. Exterior-wise, a fresh, sporty look, definitely cool. And yeah, well, now why not? Probably worth than the Sport upgrade if you like that look, especially when you use those bigger black wheels than in the summer tires. However, the Sport dampers, yeah, I mean, they're a little bit rough from time to time when you have uneven road. The interior is pretty cool because, well, the build quality could be better here and there. Yet again, in the sporty trim here, adds a little bit more spice. But the coolest thing is that you have so much space on the interior considering the small exterior length. That's among best in segment. Driving wise, this 1.5 liter turbo petrol engine was actually doing very well. It gave me better punch, especially when being on the motorway, and it's also more relaxing to ride because you don't have to turn the gears that up. And also fuel economy wise, again a good result, even a little bit better than with the natural aspirated engine. Here, 6 liters on 100 kilometers today. It's about 39 mpg US and 47 mpg UK, and that's actually pretty decent. So what do you guys think? Leave us your feedback and also tune in to one of our next full reviews. What do you think about the Honda HR-V Sport? And also compare our non-HR-V Sport review, for example, or some of the competitors. See you there.